Here will be lots of noise because this is an elementary school. We will have a small tour for you and for the listeners. Okay, so here is the gym. Доброго ранку.
We're watching Ukraine's future volleyball champions, I think. There's some good shots there.
Доброго ранку. Here we have a place to eat. And
There's something steaming over there.
yes, sure, we can ask. Доброго ранку. Ми до вас на хвилинку. Ми нічого не знімаємо, ми все записуємо.
Риба заливна із картопляве пюре.
О, супер. So mashed potatoes and the fish. Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's very good. It's a cloudy morning in Ukraine in February. My producer, Adelie, and I are in the countryside, about 40 minutes north of Kiev. The snow has gone, but the wind rushing down the Dnipro ensures no one leaves home without many layers. We are in the small settlement of Stary Petrivsky on the invitation of a teacher in the local school.
My name is Alla, and I am a teacher here.
What do you teach?
English, unfortunately. No, just kidding.
I had been put in touch with Alla through a friend. She's young, full of energy, with a beaming smile and short, curly brown hair. We spent a day with Alla and many of her students. Her school is for the whole community, from excitable 5-year-olds to teenagers glued to their phones. At the start of the invasion, the Russians came to within a couple of kilometers of the village. Now, in February 2024, it's very far from the front lines. And that's exactly why we've come here. To a normal school, in a normal town, where, for the last 2 years, the students have been growing up in the shadow of war. What has that been like for them? Balancing exams and lessons with bombing raids and parents on the front lines? And how do you run a school while your country is actively fighting for its very survival? I'm David Knowles, and this is a special episode of Ukraine, the latest.
Here will be the room for our principal, the class. So if there are some problems for teachers, for our kids, they can go here, or for parents as well. What else do we have here? Here, just our whole...
Alla is both our tour guide and translator.
All of this, as you could see, this walls, it was made by our teachers.
Alla, you're going to have to translate it. The script is lovely, but I can't read it. What does it say?
So it's Dita Kvita Nacji, so it means that our kids are the flowers of the nation.
As you're hearing, Alla is an incredibly energetic teacher.
So, and here is the flowers. So, yeah.
Despite the war and everything else going on, she's decided to launch her own podcast with her students.
This podcast is about kids and teenagers, what they do, what they think about, and it's also very, very useful for their parents, because sometimes parents do not know what their kids doing, at school, and as soon as you listen to our episodes, it would be super clear. Are you ready to go to our podcast studio?
Brilliant. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
Yeah, so we're there.
Here we are. This is the podcast studio. Oh, wow. Alla, what have you done? This is fantastic. This is not what I expected from a podcast studio. We have a spinning wheel. We have sort of Ukrainian sort of cloths and a rushnik, and that's Taushashenko, the Kozbar, Ukraine's famous poet, of course. We've got Ukrainian clothes on the sides, some baskets, some pots. It's decorated basically like a traditional Ukrainian house. That is lovely. Every week, a group of teenagers talk about everything, from their mental health to updates on their studies. Alla says it's been a welcome distraction for them. The students have done candid interviews with their own parents about raising teenagers during wartime and talked about life in the shelter. They even decided to interview us, foreign journalists covering the war in their country.
Так, мені треба сказати, що це Святі Петрівці. Hey everyone, it's again Святі Петрівці, and today we have guests from Britain.
Yeah, a really cool guest from Telegraph. We have Adelie here and we have David, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Даша, задавайте питання.
Можна?
In the first few weeks of the war, when Russian troops were marching on the capital, the school became a shelter and a centre for the whole Hromada. Hromada, that's a word that will come up a lot. It's essentially the local municipality.
So we have Olga Viktorovna here, and she's the principal of our Petrivsky High School.
Olga is in her 40s, tall with long brown hair, and when she sits down behind the microphone, she's dignified and grave.
Я зайшла на посаду директора в січні 22-го.
So I became a principal in January 2022.
Just a month before Russia launched its full-scale invasion.
Бінго, як то кажуть.
That was a bingo for me.
Почалось все з самого раночку для нас, так?
The Russians that bombarded our Hromada, our community, and it was very, very close to my home.
Так, і було з одного боку, перше, що ми почали робити, ми дали...
We had a talk, communication with our administration of Hromada, of community, and they said there is no chance kids are going to school.
Є слова, які мають прозвучати, навіть якщо вони звучать абсурдно.
It was obvious, but it still needed to be communicated.
Потім зв'язались з колегами, у нас є чат, в якому ми спілкуємось.
And then we had chat with our colleagues, and we just made sure that all of them are in somehow safe space.
Ми тримали зв'язок з колегами 24/7.
We were in contact 24/7 every day.
Підтримували один одного.
Supporting each other.
Підтримували своїх дітей, контролювали, де вони, хто виїжджає, хто приймає які рішення.
Supporting our kids and also understanding what they're doing with their lives. Like, are they going abroad? Are they inside our community?
Десь пару днів пішло на те, щоб привести в певний стан стабільності власних дітей.
And then, of course, few days came in order to balance our own children.
А потім ми почали працювати.
And then we started to work.
Зателефонували мені.
Then the administration called me and asked if there is a possibility for our school to become a humanitarian center.
Я сказала, так, звісно.
I said, yes, of course.
І ми з вчителями вийшли працювати. Ми готували їжу.
And we started to work with our teachers. We were cooking food.
Ми приймали гуманітарну допомогу з інших країн, сортували і надавали цю допомогу дітям, які лишились в громаді.
Yeah, we received humanitarian support and sorted it and also distributed it to families of our community.
The urgency of those first few months has died away, but for everyone in the school, life remains difficult, even far from the front lines.
Є речі, які дуже хочеться, щоб почули люди в Європі і в Америці, наприклад.
There are some things that I really want people from Europe, Europeans and Americans to listen to.
Уже 2 роки кожна людина в нашій країні, дорослі, діти, незалежно від віку, ми живемо весь час в стані тотальної невизначеності і очікування найгіршого.
Okay, so for 2 years, we and adults and children were living in complete uncertainty for these 2 years.
Так. І ми не просто живемо, да? Ми весь час якось наше життя змінюється настільки, що ми там...
We're not only living, but some things became norms for us. For example, being at the shelter when we have air sirens.
Ми маємо створити, це наш обов'язок, створити.
And the thing we need to do is to make for our kids the sense of stability and safety.
Але раніше було не так зрозуміло, а зараз безперечно.
Now we understand that the main priority is the life itself.
І це зараз уже не порожні слова, тому що багато хто з наших учнів втратили батьків.
And right now it's not just an empty words. We have lots of students who lost their parents.
Так, діти, вони набагато швидше дорослішають зараз.
They are becoming adults very quickly right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Дякую дуже.
The war with Russia has now permeated every aspect of the school. Alla whisks us out of the room, and the second half of the tour takes us upstairs.
And this is our museum. So actually...
What Alla calls the school's museum is a long corridor of exhibits and glass cases.
So, oh yeah, this is from the Second World War, because we have here also the newspaper from that time when Novi Petrivci were liberated, and now, yeah, we do have the artifacts from our modern war.
So just to explain to listeners where we are, where Alice described that we're in the museum of the school, and it's a long room, lots of light, and on one side is a mural with the colours of the Ukrainian flag, and we can see sort of Second World War fighters in the sky. Right next to it is a potted plant, and next to that is some sort of missile launcher that's been used in this war, covered in messages. You can see Slava Ukrainia, you can see people saying thank you for what you've done, donated by the parents, one of the parents of the children here. So just to be clear, we're in a school, and there's a missile launcher, a sort of, used casing of a missile launcher standing in the corner. Near the museum, Alla shows us something that I have seen in other schools in Ukraine.
This is a volunteering corner. This is here our students and our teachers. They can mount camouflage nets for our soldiers. So
What's that?
we have a break finally. As you can see, there will be lots of noise right now.
In front of us, as the kids are racing past between their lessons, as you can probably hear, there's a wooden frame with a sort of net mesh stretched over it. And in that mesh, we can see bits of material, camouflage material, that if you sit on the seat in front of the frame, you can start knitting together into a sort of camouflage pattern. And in the end, it'll be a cover for a tank or a cover for a soldier. This is normal, isn't it? This is not special.
Yes.
Everywhere does this. Every school does this. Do people from the community come in and work as well?
Yes, absolutely. So it's also people from the Hromada, from the community, and our students, and lots of our teachers. Every single day there will be some people who will make it. So,
And where do these go? This is the support for the army you were talking about.
Yes.
This is why they're sending you letters of thanks.
Exactly.
It's not just nets. Some of the students get involved in different ways. One of the primary school teachers told us more.
My name is Alexandra Sergeyevna. I'm teacher in primary school. I have the 3rd grade. I have 28 children.
As an elementary school teacher, do your kids get involved in the volunteering? And if so, what do they do?
Так, малюємо малюнки, плетемо різні обереги, тобто постійно...
Our elementary kids are also very, very into the volunteering. We do have boxes of warmth, if we could say that. So it's we're making this tea and good socks with drawings in order to warm our soldiers. We collected metal stuff for making candles that soldiers can use. This is number one. And secondly, there is a specific plastic cans. Is it called cans? Right, from the plastic bottles. And it could also be transformed afterwards into, I will check how it will be, prosthetics?
Prosthetics.
Yes, exactly.
With the war lasting over 2 years, many Ukrainian soldiers have been injured, with tens of thousands losing limbs. The demand for prosthetics is so acute, even the smallest act of volunteering can make a difference, like collecting used plastic bottle caps.
We are drawing a lot and we give it to our soldiers.
What do the soldiers do with the pictures? Have you seen how they use them, where they put them?
Так, я бачила, ми передаємо волонтерам. Волонтери, звичайно, роблять фотозвіт.
Our soldiers are putting them, our drawings of our kids onto the wall and the dugouts and also in the hospital. So it really supports them. So we saw lots of photos from the front line.
The consequences of the war for the children of Stary Petrivsky are already becoming clear. Some have lost parents. Others struggle with families under the strain of alcoholism and breakdown. They are just children, and in a more just world would not be forced to bear these burdens. But the most obvious consequence is how the war is shaping these children's lives, both in the present, but also how they imagine their future. Do the children talk to you about the war? Do they ask you questions that sometimes you don't know how to answer?
Звичайно, діти запитують, діти постійно будуть питати, дітей теж це турбує, воно їм болить, можливо, вони не завжди це показують.
Yeah, of course they're asking a lot. Unfortunately or fortunately, they sometimes do not show that it hurts them, but of course they do know it and they do ask a lot.
Найпопулярніше запитання – це коли закінчиться війна.
The most popular is when the war will end. This is number one question.
Це найпопулярніше і найчастіше воно звучить із вуст дітей.
And they are also asking, like, what should be the next when the war ends? And if not, if it will last, what should be next? So the consequences.
Do the children tell you, what they want to be when they grow up? And has that changed over the past 2 years? What do they say now?
Ну, звичайно, що діти говорять. Вони змінилися.
The war changed them and changed them a lot.
Це навіть помітно в їхніх іграх.
Yeah, and we also can say it even in the games that they are playing and also in the drawings, because we can always see the tanks, missiles inside the drawings.
Якщо там дівчатка хотіли там бути ще моделями.
So if before we were talking about girls that they want to be actresses and models, so now they really want to be policewomen, right, and police officers, and also the same for the boys, everything that is connected to the protection of the country.
These are still normal kids, though, studying for exams and listening to pop music just like children around the world. Like 13-year-old Lyra, who sits down to chat with us in between 2 lessons.
I'm 13 years old. I am from 8th grade.
What's your favourite subject so far at school?
maybe it will be math and English.
And English?
Yeah.
Is Adelie your teacher?
No, like
Okay. What do you like about studying English?
maybe that I can understand one of my favorite artists and just maybe in the future talk with them.
Who's that?
I really like Billie Eilish, like you
Billie
know.
Eilish?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I really like K-pop artists from Korea, and mostly them talk in English, so I can a little understand.
Could you talk about the last 2 years then? What have they been like at school for you?
Maybe about war, like before that, from fourth grade, like this was coronavirus, and for second half fourth grade, we all was at home. Six, like first part was sometimes school, but the second was war, and we was at home.
That's a whole generation of students who've seen their school years disrupted by COVID and then the war. Can you tell us what happens when there's an air raid?
Maybe just the lessons, like we must stand up and took off all our books in a table, put it in our backpack, and just take our jackets, some coats maybe, and go to shuttle. And after that, just lesson must restart. Of course, there's a little noise there, like this little hard, but we must to continue lesson.
We head down to the shelter with Alla and some of the kids to see where the students, some as young as 6, have to study when the air siren sounds. Listeners will remember the last school shelter I visited, underneath the school in Bucha where our friends sheltered during occupation. It's quite dark down here, just a couple of lights the students are waiting to show us. This shelter, adapted from the existing warren of corridors, rooms and storage spaces, is large enough for hundreds of pupils and members of the surrounding Hromada. You can see all the plumbing of the school as well, so it feels really industrial. There's sort of extra chairs and tables. Most Soviet-era schools do have shelters, but many had to be refurbished. And I remember, wow, this is big.
So you will see right now the old shelter. However, this is only the first part, and the second part of the shelter will be open for all the civilians of our community of Gromada. And it will be probably in the next few months, because this one right now should be only for our students. But unfortunately, due to the fact that there are not that many shelters inside the Gromada, everybody could go here in case of missile attacks or air alarms.
So there's a series of long corridors. It's quite well lit. There's a classroom. Are we looking at a classroom here? So we can see some of the blackboards here. There's loads of really complicated algebra. Can you do that, Yana?
Простіша система навчання.
Я знаю!
У вас в 2 рази простіша.
It's so difficult, but we must learn this.
I don't know how to do that. Heading down another long corridor with rather low lighting. This makes me think so much of the school in Bucha, where they had a couple of rooms which were sort of ready for students and everything else was unfinished, whereas here they've had, this is the tragedy, right? 2 years to do this. The bathroom.
Yeah, the main bathroom.
Is this new?
Yeah, it's completely new. Starting from the very beginning of this year, the school decided that it is extremely important to have a normal bathroom in a shelter, because nobody knows how much time will we spend here. So yeah, sometimes we had 5 hours we needed to sit here, which was awful. Yeah, it's, as you can imagine, it's not super funny. So here is the exit from the shelter.
There's a sort of big poster here, and these look like the rules of the shelter, is that right? Can you explain what we're looking at?
So the first one is what you do need to do, okay? So you need to follow the strict rules that you already know, and do not panic, and always have their backpacks with the medicine if they need, and the water or some food if they also want to.
It's a bizarre new reality that these children have to live through every day. Drawing to boost morale of troops on the front line, making camouflage nets, taking classes in an air raid shelter. They have all been forced to grow up too fast. I asked Lyra what helped her cope in the last couple of years. There'll be lots of people, there'll be lots of other children at school listening. What would you like to say to them in the US, in the UK, or elsewhere?
Maybe if something wrong with you, something like this is so hard maybe to do something, you must just do your favorite things, and this always must help you, like maybe listen music, play something, write something, watch something.
We want to thank Olga and all the teachers for welcoming us to their school. Huge thanks as well to Alla Shakova for arranging all the interviews and translating them so well. If you want to support the school and Alice podcast, you'll find more info in the show notes. This special episode of Ukraine the Latest was recorded, written and produced by Adelie Pojzman-Pontay. The editors were Vinny Shirani and Jack Boswell. Mixing by Elliot Lampett. The executive producers were Louisa Wells and me, David Knowles.